If you are here for bringing your product catalog into UEFN experiences, you've come to the right place. My name is Ian Southwell. I am the creative director at Cleverlike Studios. For those of you that don't know Cleverlike Studios, quick question, who hasn't come across us just yet? 1, 2, 3, cool, okay. So we are primarily an education team. So we build tutorials to help elevate students as well as teachers and professionals to the next level, is what we do. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk through this very much like I would do inside of a classroom with a few little tweaks in that I'm not gonna be running around troubleshooting on your computers, even though I know some of you have them open. I'm watching you, right? As a creative director, I get to do a lot of, well, creative, fun things and direct projects into the direction that we want them to go. Today, we are gonna go ahead and walk through creating an esports room. We were very fortunate to be able to work with Spectrum Industries. They work primarily inside of CAD. I do not. However, there are ways to get around that. The idea is that while inside of Fortnite, the players can actually take their furniture, those CAD models, and actually build an esports room, right? We work, like I said, with students. We were actually working with students this week. We have a game jam, and the students are going to be showing off their stuff. So some of those said students that would build their own esports lab will be here this week, right? So basic concept. Spectrum Industries has a catalog of esports desks, tables, chairs, and so on. Right? We're going to take those from CAD and put them inside of an esports game. Some of you might have heard of Fortnite. Did we get a hand for Fortnite up in here? Yeah, okay, nobody got it, understand. Well, I won't explain that. You can go Google that one, right? So what's awesome about this is that the institutions and the schools can actually go and, hey, this is our blueprint of the room. This is where we have outlets. We want to go ahead and build an esports room. And the esportsers, the players and the coaches, right? They can be like, well, this is the way we would like to set this up. We want a presentation area, we want a place where we can actually practice. They can then go through that catalog that Spectrum has, pick out the pieces that they want, and then talk with Spectrum and be like, cool, we know exactly what we need to do, right? So, some of the stuff that you see up here, my favorite man, Scorpion, up in here, he's actually setting this whole thing up. So, at the very top, also, if you hadn't noticed, this is an actual live island currently working, right? This is not Fortnite Creative where they're dropping stuff in. This is Fortnite proper, so they can play this on their mobile in their classroom when they're supposed to be like doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing, but instead they're playing Fortnite. But they're working, right? We want them to work inside of Fortnite. That's the idea. So what are we gonna be talking about? Well, as mentioned before, we're definitely gonna be going from CAD all the way into Fortnite as long as everything works properly. How many here have done a tech demo and like, this worked perfect? Yeah, nobody. Okay, so nobody's done Fortnite, nobody's done tech demos that work perfect. God, we're in the right room with the right people. I appreciate that one. Something that we will not be covering, specifically the verse code where they're actually placing this stuff around. As of the keynote that just happened here today, this was all done prior to Scene Graph. Right? So now that we have Scene Graph, this is gonna be a whole lot easier, which is really cool. I'm super excited to like go home and like revamp this project. I'm like, excited silence. The other thing that I really want to point out is this is not working with Epic to get your IP into Fortnite, right? They work with a lot of IPs. That is not this. This talk is about you doing the work to get your product into Fortnite so that people can play it, not the IP brands thing, okay? I want to be really clear about that. There are a couple of things that we learned along the way, and I would like to point them out. Also, I'm at least a little bit dyslexic, and I'll point it out here on the slide here in a moment. So some of the stuff that we learned, you're allowed to use any kind of CAD software you want. I am not a CAD designer. We worked with Spectrum. Spectrum did all of the CAD stuff, right? We ended up using Blender instead. We found that Blender, this is the dyslexic part, for those of you that are taking notes, Blender 3.1.0 worked better. So yeah, ignore that whole little spot right there, like this one. Oh, I can't draw on this one yet. Oh, we'll get there on the other side. All right. The other thing to remember is that you're gonna need some way to work with Datasmith stuff. Now, if you're working directly from CAD, I'll talk about that in a minute. So there's a plugin, kudos to the cat that actually built this. This plugin works inside of Blender, and you can use it to work to export to the Datasmith format. Okay, so take note up on there. For this one, we ended up using Unreal Engine 5.4. See, I told you, dyslexia, it'll get you every time. You can use the later ones, and the reason that I want to point that out is because you need to have the Datasmith importer enabled inside of Unreal, okay? Anybody do architecture here? Yeah, okay, yeah, we got a couple of architecture, y'all. So the architecture template has this enabled, so all you gotta do is hit a button and open up an architecture template, and it'll be ready to go for you. Obviously, you need to have UEFN, because that's going to be where you're gonna be doing a lot of this stuff. And of course, Fortnite, so that you can go ahead and play test this stuff. Pardon for a sip. Now this is the optional part that I was talking about with the CAD side. There is a way to connect your CAD software directly to Unreal Engine, okay? So don't feel like you have to go through Blender. We did because we don't have CAD in our studio, so it's not a thing. Anybody actually use that plugin that goes directly into it? Yeah, I got a couple of them. It's amazing from what I hear. Yeah, big, vigorous nods, right? Like, that's awesome, cool. Okay, a couple things that we learned while actually working through this. I promise you we're gonna get into more demo stuff here. Lessons we learned. When working with the supplier, make sure that you're setting up a nice workflow, right? Get stuff on paper, get it kind of worked out, and of course this stuff will change over time. But establishing that workflow and the specific files that you need and how you're gonna transfer those files and what specific file types you need is going to be incredibly important, right? Everybody's got their own ands, ifs, and buts. For example, we were like, oh, let's do FBX. That'll be perfect, right? Well, FBX is not so hot because it doesn't necessarily bring over all of the materials with the textures and everything attached and going for it. The other problem that we ran into while we were doing this, and this is what the big yellow boxes are for, it's got 11 materials. Remember, we're working in something that's running in real time. We need to cut down draw calls, and we need to cut down as much compute as possible. So if you've got 11 materials, that's probably fine for a couple of them, but if you have a ginormous catalog, that's a technical term, a ginormous catalog, right? You have to kind of worry about that because there's gonna be a lot of things that are happening in real time. And this doesn't have to be a single player experience. We're showing you a single player, but you could have multiple students and admin actually using this, or whoever your client might be in real time, actually going in and playing, working, right, and actually making this happen. So keeping those in mind. We found that the GLB actually works really well. So if you're familiar with 3D scanning, another way to get this stuff into your games / work things, you can use that file format. Whoa, let's go the other way, please. There we go. So working with the supplier, other things to note, right? The supplier is the one that's actually selling the product. So have them create the thumbnails. It will save you a little bit of time, and they're gonna get what they want out there in front, right? Don't try and guess what they want unless you have a really good relationship with them. That's gonna be helpful. We found that pings work really well. They've got, a nice resolution. Know the resolution that you wanna use, and if you need some sort of an alpha, it can be really helpful for dealing with materials, right? Any material artists? Where are my material artists? Actually, no material artists. Material artists, come in. People online, material artists, jump in. It's a thing, right? Okay, so there's that part of it. And then naming conventions. As an instructor, I worked for many, many years inside of the instructing area. Naming conventions, naming conventions, naming conventions. This is gonna be super important. We found that having things like your texture, as well as your mesh, as well as the material, as well as the thumbnail, as well as the verse code, all have the same one. So when we need to go in and change something, we're like, okay, it's this one, got it, it's this one. Perfect, I know the name, I know exactly where to find it, I can search for it, I can copy and paste, right? Efficiency, that'd be super helpful. Another bit to think about, we talked about material count, which is awesome, but double down on it, right? The other thing is poly count. CAD models are beautiful. Thank you, CAD people out there in the world. I appreciate what you do. The thing that I don't appreciate is the number of triangles and vertices that come across. And the reason that these come across, for those that don't know, especially if you're on the gaming side of it, you get nuts and bolts and screws and threads that you have to worry about, and you get thousands of triangles for this. In this case, we have over 1 million. UEFN and Fortnite can handle that The reason that they can handle it is because they go through automatically and they smash it down to 50K. So you get really undesired results most of the time. Okay, so this is where the Unreal part comes in. And what we ended up finding was that on our side, if we ended up getting a CAD model, we can go through and use Datasmith and use a recipe. That's the thing that you see on the right-hand side, where the little circles are. I can find those via their like call number or ID number or whatever y'all CAD people, put it in the comments down below. Whatever you call that, and we can actually pull those things out with that recipe, which is great. However, if you can get the people that are actually running on CAD to get rid of those before they hand them to the team that's going to be building this inside of UEFN, that's even better. So again, that relationship is really important, really, really important. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the workflow. So we're going to break this down into 4 pieces. Okay. So phase 1, we're going to do Blender. Like I said, we're going to cut out CAD. From Blender, we're going to go into Unreal Engine. From Unreal Engine, we're going to go to UEFN. From UEFN, we're going to go into Fortnite. And everybody's going, oh, he's only got 50 minutes. Is he going to pull this off? And I'm going, oh, yeah, this is going to be awesome. Because I've got slides that do it for me, but I do want to actually walk through this process as well. As an instructor, I would rather demo this stuff. So first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and import in, I'm going to tell you, then do it. We're going to go ahead and import in the GLB from your supplier, in this case Spectrum. We need to remove unnecessary things. There are some things that just come through when you export out of a CAD program. You need to get rid of those things. We're also going to need to adjust the position because everybody knows Z is up. Yeah, I'm getting dirty looks, I can already see it. So we need to take care of that. We also need to kind of think about what we're going to be doing with this down the line. Think chess, think checkers, think game design. Something's going to change down the line and we have to address that within the process of actually doing this, our workflow, right? Then export it out as the Datasmith and then save the Blender file. Why do we save the Blender file? So we can come back to it later, just in case we need to adjust something. So having a paper trail, digital paper trail, is going to be super helpful. All right, I'm going to jump over to Blender and actually talk about this. This is everybody's favorite cube, Kevin. No laughs, no Fortnite. All right, got it. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the pieces that we don't need. We'll go up here and we'll say File. Go ahead and import this in. We're going to go ahead and grab our GLB. And the one that I'm specifically looking for, I'm going to cheat and do a copy and paste. Is it cheating or is it a feature, right? So you may get a file that's got a huge name on it. I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. Oh, no, I'm not. Apparently, I'm not going to do that. Oh, there it is. Yay, it worked. Thought it was a technical issue. So you can see this thing's sitting on the side. Let's go ahead and adjust that. Oh, actually, let's get rid of these cameras because we don't need them. Even though I can't see them, I don't know where they're at. I'm going to go ahead and just delete those out of there. Let's go grab this bad boy and we'll rotate it. All right, we're going to use this. And we'll go ahead and make sure this is nice and even at 90 degrees. Go up to the top here and we'll make sure that this is set up. Now, what I'm doing here is to set this up so that when I export it, it's actually going to be set up so that its pivot point will be at the bottom of this object, right? So I'm taking the world origin and using that as my reference on where I want the pivot point, because when we get into Fortnite down the road, I want this thing to be on the floor when I'm setting it out, right? The way the code was actually written is that that's where we're looking for that pivot point. So again, thinking further down the line. So now that I've got this, we'll go ahead and export this bad boy out. Whoa, export, come on now. As that Datasmith file format, right? This is that plugin that I was talking about earlier. Thank you, Internet, for keeping this thing going. All right, so Datasmith, go ahead and drop that one in. I'm gonna do the most terrible thing and put it on the desktop. Cringy, my bad. We're gonna go and put it out there. So there it is. This is gonna spit out the data format that we need for it. So there's phase 1. Then I should probably go through and actually save this, but we're gonna skip that. All right, back over to our beautiful slides. The next thing that we're gonna go ahead and do is we need to jump into Unreal with our data prep. And work with data prep, right? So we're gonna import our Datasmith file. We're gonna go ahead and create a recipe. We simplified it as much as we possibly can, so that I'm gonna just barely touch the data prep asset, which is a shame because, again, thank you, Epic engineers. This is a phenomenal plugin. Please go play with it if you haven't already, right? We didn't end up using merge actors. We're gonna use data prep. And the reason that we're gonna use data prep is because it's reusable, it's modular. Again, if you need to find the nuts, the bolts, the screws, anything with thousands and thousands of triangles, you can use the data prep to find all those. And the mesh proxy that we're gonna use is reusable as well. For those that can see the tiny little letters right where my cursor is at the moment, I'm actually changing that value, and I can reuse this on every single one of the assets that we bring in from CAD, which is awesome, or in this case, Blender. We're gonna commit. Commit, people, commit. All right, and then by all means, take your own eyeballs and look at this thing and be like, did this do what I want it to do when I actually committed it, right? And then review it, go back into Blender. This is why we saved our Blender file, and then change things as needed. We may need to actually resize and move the pivot point as well, depending on how you're exporting and what your process may actually be. That's gonna be super helpful. So here you see me actually looking at it. And then we're gonna export it back out as a .glb because it's condensed this thing into one mesh with 3 textures and 1 material, which makes it real easy for UEFN to deal with. Remember, we're thinking real time, right? We gotta keep this thing running so people can actually do this. We want this nice, smooth experience. Speaking of the experience, let's go give it a shot. All right, so inside of here, we're gonna go into, are we gonna keep playing? Hold on, we'll come back to you later, Fortnite. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. All right, so over here, let's go ahead and create a new folder, and we're gonna call this My Hub, whoops, because it's the hub one that we grabbed, HUB, there we go. We'll open this one up. I'm actually gonna create another folder in here. This is just for my own sanity. And this is actually gonna be for the assets that we're gonna create with this data prep. All right, now we need to create the data prep asset that's gonna control what we're working with from our data information. And let's do a search for it. DA, goodness. There we go, data prep asset. You see this under the data prep stuff. I'm gonna grab one of those, call this My Hub. Go ahead and open this one up. Go ahead and open this specific asset up. All right, inside of here, I'm not gonna go through the interface, but it's pretty easy to kind of figure out what we wanna do. Up here in the top left-hand corner, there's a little tiny button. That little button is where we're going to bring in the data prep. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and we're gonna go ahead and say Datasmith File Importer. We're gonna open that up, wait for it. There is our untitled one that I put on the desktop because I'm a horrible designer, horrible person. All right, now that it's in here, right, we can see that the file's there, but we haven't imported it into the engine yet. So if you're like, what happened over here? Why is there nothing? And it's like, that's why. Great demo, Ian, nothing's happening. All right, we're going to import that. Cool, here it is. This is gonna take a minute because there's everything that it needs to do. Compiling shaders, except not really, it's the meshes. All right, looks like it's totally done. So this area that you see down here at the bottom, this is where we create a data prep recipe. Now I'm only gonna use one node, but again, this is where if you're looking for specific nuts and bolts and screws, this is where you can actually find those things. Let's do a search for mesh. What I'm looking for is this one right here that says create mesh proxy. I'm gonna drag one of those bad boys in. Because I'm a good person, I'm gonna give this a name before we actually go through with it. Whoop. Like so. Excuse me. All right, 50, let's go set this up to 60. All right, now that I've got this set up, we can go ahead and tell it to do something. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot a step. Up here in the top right, we want to actually put all of the assets that this little process is going to create into a specific location. This is why I created that folder earlier, just to keep my sanity. So if we click this, we can go find it. So My Hub, and then this is that little My Hub inside of it. Grab that. So now all the extra pieces are gonna go in there. This right here, for those that are interested, this is actually gonna create a map, is what it is. And when I say map, it's like a full-on level. For those that are familiar with Unreal Engine, this is like a full-on level that is actually gonna build inside of here. So you're gonna have a ton of assets, right? This is why I create another little folder inside of our folders. Folders inside of folders, right? So there it is. So now that I have that, we can actually hit this execute button that we see up here in the top left to kind of preview what our data recipe is doing. So we don't have to commit it yet, right? So let's go ahead and execute that. Wait for it. I decided one year I was gonna go through and like have a timer for all the times that I was waiting for loading bars. That was the worst New Year's resolution I've ever made. I did make it through 2 months though, so maybe I did better than others, making it happen. All right, so now that it's actually gone through here, it's created a new mesh, and wait for the materials. We're doing a lot right now, so it may take a second. There we go. So now our materials are actually showing up as well. So this is not the final thing, but for those that were playing the home game, go back and rewind and look and see what those triangles were before. At this point, we are looking only at, what are we at? 2,000, 3,000 or so. Like go back and take a look and see what that was. For those that missed it, go back in time, right? All right, now that we've actually done the work inside of here, we're gonna go ahead and commit. What happened? Where'd it go? Don't worry, it's right there. So this is that extra level that it created. I will open up the outliner so you can see what it's done. Here is everything that little thing created, so I didn't have to. Now that looks like a lot, and you're right, it is. And if I lift this bad boy up, let's go ahead and move it over here so you can see it, hit end so it smashes, zoom in on it, and rotate around. You can see this looks pretty good. That's not bad. There's some issues maybe every now and then with the normal maps. That's where the sheen is coming from. So for those of you that want to play with this, you can actually manipulate this later. All right, so there it is. You can see that the pivot point is at the bottom. We're doing well. As needed, if you need, you can go ahead and rotate this, and then you can go ahead and come up to our modeling, where'd you go? And then I believe it's under Xform. We can go ahead and bake the transformations here inside of the engine, which allows you to get it facing the direction that you want. This may be important down the line because inside of Fortnite, you may want it to start facing a specific direction. You want it to face the client maybe, or you want it to face away the client, or depending on how your room is set up, you may want it turned or rotated, right? So you can actually bake all that transform information here before we get to UEFN, should you choose. I'm a big fan, total sidebar here, I'm a big fan of like making sure that I know as early as possible if I can do a process so I don't have to hack it later. I don't have to try and remember which ones I hacked that specific thing on. And by hack, I mean I could do it here, I could do it in UEFN, do it every time in the same spot within this process, within this workflow. It can be super helpful. I'm not gonna bake that here, but I definitely want that to be an option that you're aware of. Now, other one. I want this one, right? So now that we've done everything inside of here, we haven't. We got to do the GLB thing. Ooh, quick, let's jump back. All right. Quick question. Does anybody know the hotkey so that I can find this in the content browser? I heard it, Control B. Yeah, this is huge, right? So if I select, this and hit Control B, I will jump to where it is inside of the browser. And you can see it's in that My Hub, right? It's buried deep within these things. Control B is your best friend. Well, that don't beat all. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and export this out. I'll zoom in on it so you can see what I'm doing here. Right click, come up to Asset Actions, and I'm gonna say Export. Right? This allows me to export this out as a specific file format. So I'm gonna say Export, and we're looking for, I just showed the slide. Anybody remember? GLB, yeah. We got a whole group of smart people in here, I love it. All right, so we'll go through and do a GLB. Do that one. I'm also going to be a horrible person and go ahead and put this on the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, like so. And you will get this. Now this thing, whoops, not that button. Let's do that and then do that, right? So this is going to ask you what kind of files and bits and things that you want to do. All I'm going to do is, so that everybody's on the same page, is just set it to default, or set it to its defaults, and then export this sucker out. Boom, like that. Wait for it. Okay. Back over to this side. So now we're going to go over to UEFN. UEFN developers, where are you all at? Let me see your hands. 1, 2, yeah, cool. All right, so there's a couple of you in here. Excellent. It's a nice mix. I appreciate this. This is a great place to network and mix and get to know the people for this specific pieces of your pipeline. Excellent. Love that. All right, so inside of UEFN, we're going to simply just import this in from Unreal, right? And then I highly suggest, again, organizing your file structure so you can find things. The other thing, and you can see this in the slide right now, I actually was renaming one of those pieces. And again, this comes down to the naming convention, so I can find things really quickly. So let's go ahead and jump over there and do that. And I need this button, boom. All right, so inside of UEFN, let's close down Unreal and let's bring up UEFN. Ta-da! So this is literally the project that is live, right? So I've got a little spot over here that is a graveyard, and it's right over here, right? So these are all those little products and all the bits and pieces that we've been working with Spectrum. So again, thank you, Spectrum. I appreciate you. All right, we need to get it into here. Now I'm gonna I'm not gonna do the exact thing that I would do while I'm doing a workflow on the project, just because we're doing demo things here, right? So what I can do, however, let's open these up a little bit more. We're gonna come down here into our static meshes folder. And inside of here, you can see I've got folders for every one of those products. So what I wanna do is create a new one. So we'll say a new folder. This one's gonna be my hub, right? And then let's zoom back in on that. Boop, boop. So inside of my hub, oh, hey, sticky fingers. Oh yeah, okay, we're gonna deal with that problem. I'm not gonna fight that fight. All right, now let's go ahead and import this in. So right click, go ahead and say import to current folder. And the one we want lives on the desktop, and hey, there's that one that just came from Unreal. So when I bring this one in, again, I'm gonna go ahead and use the defaults for this, nothing fancy. And then we'll go ahead and then import. All right. Now we've imported these pieces in. So you can see we just went from a whole bunch of triangles and a slew of textures and a humongous number of materials down to 5 assets. So nice, right? The other thing that I want to do is to note that when it did this process, notice the name on the actual static mesh and notice the name on the material. So we've got our material instance, but it's got that little S in there that's actually coming from it. I need to get rid of that so that my verse programmers and engineers don't have to try and, oh, this one's got the S in it every time, right? I can just get rid of it and we can copy and paste, make things so much more efficient. So we'll do the F2 trick, come over here, get rid of that part. Save it as. Now, the other thing that I need to point out, for those of you that are taking notes, right? As of right now, Verse, anybody played with Verse? Where are my Verse cats? So we got 1, 2. Talked with these couple of people up here if you want to learn Verse. It's amazing. And we just got a whole bunch of cool new toys. If you people weren't so wonderful, I'd be at home playing with that. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to set this up so Verse can find it efficiently. As of right now, since we played with it last, Verse, and I'll go ahead and show you this, Verse has got asset reflection in it, so anything inside of your project, and now even more, because we got some new toys, it can find those things inside of there. So if you're used to working with asset reflections with other code languages, Blueprint, C++, for the first 2 that come to mind, this does it too, which is awesome, right? So we can find the pieces in there. So we need to add those specific things to Verse. We'll get to there in a minute. So here's the point though, I'm gonna go back a slide. You'll notice that the little yellow boxes we have in the bottom left-hand corner, right now, by default, Verse will find things that are like 1 folder down. No problem, not an issue at all. If you want to go down deeper folders, you just tell it to look, but by default, it'll just find those first folders. So if they're nice and set up like this, it'll just do it. You don't have to write extra code or an extra line. If you're looking to go deeper, just add a couple extra lines of code and it'll go, oh, okay, I just need to go down 1 extra folder and it'll find it, which works really well. So again, thank it to the epic engineers that are doing this. So I very much appreciate that. Okay, so what does that actually look like? Well, if we go back here inside of UEFN, right? Let's make sure that my material instance and my static mesh are actually inside of our static meshes folder, right? Save myself a little bit of time on my engineer side by doing a little work on the front end. Again, if I can do something in the pipeline early, do it in that specific spot. Don't try and hack it later to figure it out. Make your team happy. So let's grab these 2. I'm gonna drag these into our static mesh and move that sucker there. And because I'm a good little designer, I'm also gonna go ahead and right click on this and update my redirectors. I know I saw a couple of panicked faces there. Don't worry, we're gonna do this, right? So I'll do that setup. So now if I do a search for my hub, we have our static mesh, right? So this one right here. The reason that I'm pointing this out is because I have another static mesh in here, right over here, that looks very similar. And we're going to talk about why these are different in just a moment. But I also want to point out that this one with this on it is the one that we're going to be dropping into Fortnite. All right, let's go back to our slides. So I know where I'm at, right? So Verse, learn it, use it. It's fantastic. All right, so now we need to go ahead and actually test this inside of Fortnite. Of course, do internal tests, but the wicked thing about this is that you can create a private island code inside of Fortnite, and you can send that to other playtesters around the world, add them to your team, and now people that are not on your team that have actually had experience, like maybe the clients, have a chance to actually kind of work with this and see that experience and see what's actually going on and make it happen. One of the things that we added, and I'm going to talk about some little bits and pieces afterwards, is that we added an ability for the camera to actually go around the room and actually take a look-see. Because looking at it from first person to third person is great, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to see the entire area, right? And if that's built into Fortnite, use that feature, because it exists, and it's just a sequencer, by the way, for those that know what that one is. All right, so if we come back over here, come on, mouse. Put that out of the way. Oh, hello. Oh, you're set up like this. Got it. All right, so now that this is in here, I'm gonna go ahead and open up, oh, I forgot to open up VS Code. Okay, that's fine, cool, not a big deal, because we have it in a slide. So from here, we can actually take this is where the demo goes, and it's not gonna happen. I can't get this in there because I don't have VS Code. Not a big deal. That's my fault, not anybody else's. Right? We can take that and actually drop it into VS Code. It'll find, into the Verse scripts, it'll find our actual assets that are down inside of here, and it'll actually upload them in there. All we have to do afterwards, because we created new assets, is we go ahead and push the changes, and it says, oh, now I understand that those pieces are inside my project. Now I know how they're being referenced inside of Verse, and we've got devices, the Fortnite devices, that actually will then call them, and we can drop them out inside of our world. So, the other thing that I want to point out too is that obviously internal and working with your clients is good, but even better than that is putting it out in the wild. And no wilder character than our awesome president, Brian, who is actually standing in the back of the room. Say, hi, Brian. That was actually pretty good. We didn't even rehearse that one, right? Internet, you were supposed to do it too. You failed us. Come on, what are you doing? All right, so what we can do is we can actually take this and put it on that hub. What? How meta is that, right? So students, admin, and all your clients, whoever they happen to be, actually jump into an esports game, build their esports arena on top of an esports product, right? How silly and crazy is that, right? How much more cool can you get? Okay. So once we actually get that out there, we decided we needed to add a couple of bells and whistles. So one of the things that we can do, and this is why I was talking to my material peeps, right? No two logos are created the same. Some are long, some are tall, some are fat, some are skinny, right? Some are black and white, some are in color, some of them have gradients. So when a client comes to us and they're like, hey, we want to put our stuff in there, we're like, perfect, give me a picture of your logo. Please put an alpha on it. That would be great, right? And we can go ahead and drop that on there. Well, what are the colors that they need? Well, we can change those colors on our side, right? The client doesn't play with this stuff. The people inside of Fortnite don't play with this stuff. This is just on our side, right? So we're engineering these materials and material instances so that we can make that happen. Along with doing this on the screens and what other devices happen, or what other products are actually out there, we can do this inside of the interface too. So when we get over to the interface, you'll have a chance to look at it and be like, oh, check that out. That's pretty cool. Like, that's actually theirs, right? So we want to customize this for, it's kind of like your car insurance. You want to customize it as much as you possibly can down the line for the pieces that you need. Super, super helpful. Other bells and whistles. Depending on how you want to set this up, because this is your card catalog. Goodness, are we in a library? Your actual catalog. Are you going to be telling the client what the name of the thing is, or do they need the actual SKU number, right? That's up to you, and you can put that in the UI. Again, customize it for the people that are going to be using this, which is super helpful. The thing that you see on the left, that big map, this exists in Fortnite, and it updates in real time. So as students are actually placing down the tables, the desks, the chairs, the vending machines, right, whatever it happens to be, they can see where that layout is, right? Not only in 3 dimensions, but also in 2 dimensions. There is a device that lives inside of Fortnite called the map device. Map manager, I can't remember it off the top of my head. And you can set it up so it's just the little room, or you can set it up so that it's the entire, like, school, whatever it happens to be. Like, what does that blueprint need to look like? And as the players are walking around and setting these things up, you can keep track of all those things, which is nice. The first person device, another huge thanks to the Epic engineers. We saw what went into making this thing. Absolutely stunning. This is super helpful because if you look on the left, we see Scorpion's back, but we don't see the chair that's in front of them. That's not great. But if we go into first person, now we can place that chair and not have our avatar in the way, which is phenomenal. This is a huge, like, as soon as I saw this, everybody was like, oh, we're gonna be making all these cool first person games, right? And I'm like, oh, I can place a chair. This is amazing. Like, I'm that guy, right? So there it is. Everybody's been there. You all know this, right? Thinking about automation. So we just walked through CAD, into Blender, into Unreal Engine, into UEFN, into Fortnite. There's a lot of room for human error. Please try and get rid of it as much as you possibly can, right? So data prep is amazing. Again, we can use it over and over and over, and this is gonna get rid of some of that human error. Resetting the pivot points, we can build up, I still affectionately call them blutilities, but Unreal Blueprint utilities that actually do a lot of this stuff for us. We can automate that process, right? And then adding assets to Verse. We actually have to go through the code and change each one of those things and make sure that our naming conventions are all set up and ready to go. That's awesome. Fingers crossed the new automation thing for Verse will actually handle that. Again, I want to go home and play with this project and see how badly I can break it. I mean, make it work better, right? So those are huge, huge advantages as well. I'm not done. However, for those of you that are taking notes, I said this is a live island, so you can go and play this, right? This is our little baby that we're making sure that we can get students to be able to build the spaces that they want to work in so that they can move on to the careers that they want to actually play in the long run, as well as helping professionals actually do this as well. We have a whole school, so uefn.cleverlike.com, where we actually walk people through using UEFN to build stuff inside of Fortnite. This is a lot of the way our classes go, was we're teaching them. Please come and join us. There's a whole community of people that are learning all these really cool things, right? So, to finish, ladies and gents, I would like to show you a demo of this actually working here inside of Fortnite. So this is currently connected to UEFN at the moment, hence you see the edit mode up in the top left-hand corner. Dress for the job that you want. We all know this. This is Crash. I crash this program all the time. It's a thing. So Crash is going to show us a little bit of things that we can actually do inside of here. We're going to go ahead and literally just play the game. Wait for it, right? So here we are. A couple other little bells and whistles that you can drop in here. Say you have an auditorium that you're actually building. We can actually set it up so that we can fly around and actually place stuff, which is really nice. This is, again, in the game. You can actually do this. Just double tap the jump bar. We can also, let's go ahead and open up our card catalog here. Sorry, our product catalog. And you'll notice in the background, we actually have that UI with that icon, right? So it's actually scrolling across. Again, customize it for the client. Make it as awesome as possible. Everything that you see here as far as the UI was built inside of Verse. We have some amazing capabilities there and amazing people that we work with that actually build all these pieces. So for those of you that are watching, thank you. We appreciate you and put those out there. These are all just little buttons. So let's go ahead and say we want, hey, there's that gaming console, right? So let's go ahead and grab this and poof, now we have this in front of us. So you can see that the logo is actually showing up on there. I can move around, it follows me, which is great. If I needed to be a little bit closer, we can go ahead and pull this in by using and I'm using mouse and keyboard for those that are watching at home. So the mouse and keyboard controls are on the left-hand side. Let me actually move this a tiny bit. If your students are more comfortable with the controller, it is mapped to a controller as well, because Fortnite allows that capability natively, which is awesome. So now, let's go ahead and place this sucker down. And, oh, hey, it's floating. Well, that's a problem. Well, let's go ahead and set it down so it's really floating. Oh, I've committed. Let's go ahead and pick up this bad boy. We'll get nice and close to it. Let's go ahead and give it to me. Give it to me. All right, you're gonna fight me today. That's all right, Crash. If you crash the game engine, that's how it works. Oh, there it was. It's a little bit slow. There we go, there we got it. All right, let's pick that thing back up. All right, and we'll go ahead and set it down. We can also rotate these, just like we can in Fortnite Creative, which is really helpful, right? We can go ahead and set that there. Let's go ahead and grab a chair for this as well. Actually, let's go to next, and let's grab our couch. So we'll go grab the couch. We'll bring this one back. Let's go ahead and rotate this one, right? Let's go ahead and set this one over here and set it down. Boom, like so. As mentioned before, we can get into first-person mode. Let's grab a little ottoman here. And we'll go ahead in first person mode. And now I don't have that problem of having the avatar in the way. I can set these suckers down. Boom. If it'll let me, there it goes. Boom, like so, right? We want to get a nice view of what's going on. Let's leave first person mode, go ahead and do a playthrough. And the camera will actually go again around the room. What's nice about this is that you can literally do like a screen record while this is going on. So the client's like, okay, that's really cool. Like that totally works, which is great. That's exactly what I want. Ship it. That's going to be a thing. The player still can walk around too, which is kind of fun. Say hi, Crash. Hi, Crash. Let's play some games. And then at the end of this, the camera actually goes back to the player and we can continue to walk around. We have a little demo room that we've actually set up over here on the side, so you can see what an esports room actually looks like, right? Whoa, hello, we're gonna fly through the wall apparently today. Makes it nice to see that. And we can also, if you need a bigger space, we can do something like this. So getting the actual square footage and the blueprint of that area makes it really easy for us to go through and be like, oh, this is what we actually want to go ahead and build, right? And make that work to the best advantage for our client. So finally, thank you everyone for coming to this. I am Ian Southwell, Creative Director here at Cleverlike Studios. There is a microphone. We will absolutely answer your questions if we run out of time, though it looks like we got plenty. I will be in the back to answer questions further on. Again, thank you.